Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. Today is June 20th, and in a little while, we're going to have the summer solstice. That's when the sun reaches its highest peak in the northern hemisphere, and from that point on, it starts to wane. The sun, the power of the sun starts to wane. Of course, it doesn't always feel that way because that's when the summer gets its hottest, it seems. But I do want to point out that at this time, the sun symbolizes really the king, right? The royalty, the king. And solstice is a time in the pagan mythos where um, the holly king um, takes out the oak king. And so there's that sense of the king is dead, long live the king, right? The Holly King, which sort of his realm is the dark side of the year, when the darkness is more than the light, and the Oak King, which is born on winter solstice, rules, rules the spring and the summer. And then at the well, that part, the light part of the year, the part of the year where the light is growing. And so it's significant. There are quite a few kings out there, so that's something to consider. But it's also astrologically a cardinal point, which is very important. It's a world point. And Jupiter is sitting on that world point right now. Jupiter is sitting at about, I think, 2 degrees. We'll look at the chart of Cancer. And so as the sun moves into Cancer, it's moving in towards Jupiter, right? And we will have a Jupiter Sun conjunction, and that's going to be happening. Hold on, let me see. That's going to be happening on the 24th. So that's going to be happening on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. And then we have the new moon on the 25th. So it's kind of happening right at the end of this lunation cycle that began with the new moon in Gemini, and right before we have the new moon in Cancer. Um, and so with the sun in Cancer, and then this conjunction to Jupiter, and then we have to take into consideration that Saturn and Neptune are in the first degrees of Aries. And so as the sun moves in, she squares Saturn. As the sun moves in, she squares Neptune. And then we also have Jupiter there as well. And so it's a very powerful energy. And the cardinal energies are about initiation. It's about a new cycle. And so there is this very sort of shift, I feel, of energy where I feel like there's a shift to it's like we've reached the top of something, and now we're I don't want to say we're coasting because we're not coasting in any way, um, but it just feels like there's been a turning of a sort, and not in the direction that the turnings normally happen, in my estimation anyway, in the more negative direction, even though we're at the cusp of some very big uh, decisions. And as a human species, as humanity, um, because we are the people, right? Okay, so let me pull up a chart for this solstice, and I'll continue talking about it as I'm looking at the chart. So give me a moment here. Okay, so here's the chart. Now, this is the chart for the US. This is Washington, D.C. And thank you for those who are not in the US for allowing me that. So June 20th, 2025, which is right now, Although the actual solstice doesn't happen until late tonight here on the East Coast. Let me see. It happens at 10:42, so quarter to 11 p.m. here on the East Coast of the U.S. The vibration of the day is a 35-8. The 35-8 in tarot is the Nine of Wands. It's a Sagittarius energy. There are no Sagittarius planets per se in the chart, but Sagittarius does deal with um, foreign places. Okay. Um, so once the sun moves into Cancer, moves into the first degree of Cancer, and the Sabian symbol for Cancer, first degree of Cancer, is a point of no return when we reorient ourselves in a direction that acknowledges the need for accepting imperfection. Major reorientation of loyalties and values. This sort of vibes to me in the same way that the idea of, the sun at the solstice is at its highest point, right? And now from now on the sun starts to gradually fade, or it's not as powerful, it's not as high in the sky. And so to me, it symbolizes that the king has gotten as high as they can, and now it's the downfall, so to speak, of the king um, in that respect. So I think it's very interesting. And then, of course, the Sabian symbol talks about a major reorientation of loyalties and values. We're at a point where in the Middle East we have Israel attacking Iran, and they want to, I guess, take out any kind of chance they might have to have some sort of nuclear armament. Um, but they can't do it without the United States because we have the weapon that could take care of the problem that Israel has. And so we, you know, it's like, do we give the person, the weapon to, it's a terrible situation. And when you're dealing with this kind of energy, you're really dealing with Pluto. And Pluto is in Aquarius now, of course, we know that, right? We've been talking about that for a while. And it is power to the people. And so it really needs to be, I think, what most people want. And my guess is certainly in Iran, most people want peace. In Israel, I imagine most people want peace. In America, most people want peace, right? So if that was to be the case, then any um, escalation, you know, where we're getting involved might be a symbol that that's not going to happen. I don't know. But what I do see in the chart, and I do want to point this out. Well, I think I probably should say this first. The sun moves into Cancer. Cancer's ruling planet is the moon. That's why Cancers are so changeable, so emotional. They seem like one day they're happy and the next day they're sad and the next day they're pissed and then, right? It's because we're ruled by the moon. I'm a Cancer myself. And so we experience days differently than most people. People who have like Capricorns, their ruling planet is Saturn. Saturn is like practically like standing still, although nothing stands still, but it's pretty like, whew. Whereas Cancer is like this, right? It's the nature of the water and the feelings that Cancer feels. And then, so what the sign that the moon is in at the time that the sun moves into Cancer, that kind of gives us a flavor of the whole season, the summer season here in the northern hemisphere, and the winter season in the southern hemisphere as well. Um, is what the moon itself is at one of Taurus, which is a clear mountain spring, authentic self-expression, pure innocent spontaneity as a way of life. Pure innocent spontaneity as a way of life. I was watching a interview with Jasmine Crockett, and her point was, people just need to be who they are. They don't need to be who they think other people need them to be. They just need to be who they are, look at this situation realistically, plain spokenly, and then just fix what needs to be fixed, right? So it's very direct, very genuine, it's very authentic. And she, a lot of people say, how do I get, what you have, other representatives, because she's pretty, people follow her and listen to her, is do you have any like tricks? And she's like, no, just be who you are. Whatever it is you're good at, whatever you like, share who you really are with your constituents. And that's going to be the thing that gets you them to care and to see that you're, you know what I mean? So to know who you are. Um, and, there's always so much of that, like, you know, politicians, especially male politicians, it seems, especially male Republican politicians, that they don't allow themselves to be who they are, and because of that they hate everybody. So I don't know, it's nuts. um but to get back to my point, because I sort of went off point there, is that this sun moving in to Cancer with this Taurus moon, and it's sextile. I mean, Cancer and Taurus are sextile to each other. The moon is in Taurus. The sun is in Cancer. The moon is in a dis a I'm sorry, a waning sextile, and the waning sextile is the energy of Aquarius. It's the energy of sharing the knowledge, pouring down the knowledge onto all the people, so they have that everybody has a higher perspective. And I think, that's kind of the value. I mean, I know social media and media itself is a bugaboo, but you do get a sense of what people are feeling and what they think, and it does matter. So whatever you think, it does matter that you express it, not necessarily in, accusing or negative way, but just show people who you truly are. And we're going to have an opportunity, I think, to do that this summer, or winter if you're down under. So let's take a look at the chart here. Here's Pluto, like right at the ascendant. It is in the 12th house, but barely. So it's pretty much on the ascendant. It's a powerful place for Pluto to be. It's in Aquarius, power to the people, and it's in a yod. It's in a yod to Mars in Virgo. Mars in Virgo is a careful Mars. It's a thoughtful Mars. It's a Mars that's willing to work hard on the details of things. Um, it can be a critical Mars, but there's a lot of critical thinking with Mars in Virgo. It's like there's a certain amount of prove it to me kind of energy with that. Otherwise, I'm not gonna, if the data doesn't add up, I'm not gonna. It's not about belief for Virgo. It's about what does the information does the information say, and what can we glean from that. So it is a Mercury ruled Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign. So we can look to Virgo, excuse me, we can look to Virgo, we can look to Mercury, and there's Mercury at 22 degrees of Cancer. That's very close to the United States Sibley Mercury. The Sibley Mercury is at about 25 degrees of Cancer, and it's retrograde. So the United States hasn't had its Mercury return yet, but it's approaching that. And so there is, again, we're talking about the voice of Cancer, the family, the children, the mothers. Um, and so on the other side of the yod here, where is it? Is the Jupiter. Jupiter in a relatively tight and soon to be exact sextile to Mars. This is a different type of sextile. This is a sextile where we're gathering information. Okay. And then there's the sun at making up this yod, which is pointing, the finger of God is pointing to uh, Pluto in Aquarius. So an inflection point, a truly an evolutionary gateway. And the solstice times are always the change of seasons are powerful portals. A lot of people leave and come in these portals. It's interesting because this the sun in to get on a different talk about a different place is that the Prince of Wales, right? Uh, William, his son is at 00, like I don't know, 2, 3. It's just a few minutes, maybe as much as 20 minutes into Cancer. I can't remember off the top of my head. And there's Jupiter, which is of course the sign of the king, right? The king in Cancer. So he is a Cancer, and he is uh, the future king, right? And so we may see something around that with the old king reaching his zenith, and now the other king has to take over. The Holly King has to take over. And as a Cancer, when the Cancer when the sun moves into Cancer, the Holly Queen is born, King is born, and the Oak King is dead. So it's just also very symbolic. And then of course you can't take away that Saturn and Neptune are squaring these. Saturn can also be leave the planet energy. It's the Grim Reaper. Next to Pisces, which I mean next to Neptune, which is about dissolving things away. And this relationship, Saturn and Neptune, are balsamic to each other, meaning that Saturn is moving towards Neptune. Now they're both moving forward, but they will be stationing retrograde and moving backwards together. However, they never get out of this balsamic relationship. And the balsamic relationship is the end of a cycle. And so there are things that need to dissolve away. Now, both of these planets are going to move back into Pisces and sit in Pisces for a while. And then when they come back out of Pisces, when they go direct and they start moving out of Pisces, they meet up at the first degree of Aries. And that's going to happen in February 2026. And that squares this, right? It squares where the sun is now. So whatever's happening right now is going to have big consequences come 2026 when we move into a 10-1 year, which is a new cycle. We're in a 9-year now, and even just generally, the 9-year is about letting go, right? So there is this, we're letting go of things, right? We're letting go of things now, and we have to just let them go. There's nothing we can do. Really to prevent it. You can guide your life in the direction that you want. It doesn't mean that your life is over. It just means that it's time to move to a different consciousness, perhaps, hopefully, and I do believe there's a higher consciousness, a higher, and as soon as we move into that higher state of consciousness, things like war and hurting people and bombing people don't make any sense, because when you move into that higher dimensional frequency, you're in your heart. And that's where humanity shines. That's where humanity has its most power. We are so powerful. The fact that we're shivering at the feet of maniacs, thinking that the end of the world is coming, is not where we need to be. We need to be living our lives to our fullest and being our genuine self and reaching out. It's time to reach out to your family. It's time to reach out to your friends, maybe your YouTube friends. Meet up somewhere. Go have tea. We have to. We moved out virtually during 2020, and at 2020 we also had Saturn and Neptune, Saturn and Jupiter, I'm talking too fast. Saturn and Jupiter have that conjunction, that 20-year, every 20 years conjunction in the first degree of Aquarius, right? And now, and we sort of got propelled out into outer space, really, Aquarius. And now that we're starting to land, we're starting to realize that all these ideas that came together out here need to find a place to be planted in the earth and land. And I think that's really what this summer is going to be about, planting the seeds of transformation. I know that's the name of the I know that's the name of the center, but that's really what it is. And yeah, and the sun in Cancer, or Cancer, the symbol for Cancer, um, is the yin and yang. It's the balance, but it's not just balance, it's the movement, right? It's the movement. It's our duality, and it's Cancer, so it's a feeling duality. I mean, Gemini is a mental duality, Cancer is a feeling duality. So it's a very emotional and feeling time, and you're going to feel your feels. Let your representatives know what you're feeling. Let them know, what sits with you and what doesn't. Be your authentic self to the people around you. And I think that while I'm not really sure things are going to get less chaotic or necessarily easier, I think the more that you feel you can be yourself and really express who you are, um, I think the world becomes easier by through that. So it doesn't get easier unless we get easier. And we need to, this whole idea of the enemy within. There is no enemy within. There's no enemy. There's no enemy. We are one. And I think that will go a long way to keep the light on the situation. It's time for us to shine our light as bright as we can. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're true to yourself. The Tower card in the tarot is a card that the tower that falls is the facades. It's the ego structures that we use to, get to the top of the mountain, I guess. But ultimately, we're spirit having a human experience. We're spirit. We're all connected in that way. We're not isolated. And when you realize that and you open your heart and your mind to that, you realize there are no enemies within or without. So I think this is going to be a very powerful solstice. I hope this gave you some perspective. I spent the day with three of my friends, our posse. We call it our posse. And we went to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, and it was her palazzo. She had a palace, and then when she passed, she wanted all the art to be, in the place, and so it was also very famous for a robbery of some masters' paintings back in, I think, the 90s, 80s or 90s. I wasn't in Massachusetts at that time, so it must have been the 80s. Um, but it was beautiful. It was such a beautiful place, and it was such an interesting collection. A lot of stuff from a lot of stuff from like churches and stuff in Europe. But and then there was this one room, and it was the Venice room. And I said to my friends, I'm like, I was looking at the wallpaper. I should have taken a picture of the wallpaper. And I'm like, I don't know. This feels like I didn't know it was called the Venice room. And of course, Venice is Venice, Italy, and it's named after the goddess of love, Venus, right? So I said, I feel like this is the vagina room. Because the wallpaper, I was like, and I'm saying to my friend Catherine, I'm like, look, doesn't it kind of resemble? And then I looked up, and there was this beautiful um, painting on the ceiling, and then surrounding it was all this sort of ornate, like carved wood. And along the edge, there was the Vesica Pisces. The Vesica Pisces, like, looks like that, right? It's the vagina, right? The Vesica Pisces is where the two circles come together. and that creates the birth canal, right? And so there were all these birth canal, right? All these vagina, and I was like, look, I didn't even know they were up there, and I still called it the vagina room. And it was just such a joyous, it was so much fun, actually. And to be with my friends Jackie and Sherry and Catherine, I want to thank you guys for a wonderful day. I felt very cultured. I got very cultured after that. I felt like a giant pearl. It was wonderful. We went to the cafe and we had all this delicious food. And it was a beautiful day in Boston. It was hot, but it was windy, and so I guess, to me, I guess would feel like Aruba, because it was hot, windy, and it was dry. So, although I've never been to Aruba, but anyway, so that's what I did today, and that's sort of how I celebrated this day. And find your special way of celebrating the day, and reach out to the people that love you and that you love that you haven't talked to in a long time. Reconnect. We need this web of love and light, and it's going to get us through this time. This is not the end of the world, as much as the maniacs might want to think that and might want to see that. Um, Most of us don't. Okay. All right. Have a blessed solstice tomorrow night on this channel, Victoria Skirbo, Mystic Sisters Live. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of W2F questions and probably some um, really good stories to tell. Um, Also, I am starting a cyanotic cycle uh, um, s- uh, class on the cyanotic cycles. That's the cycles that planets take from conjunction to conjunction, and depending on how far out the planets are, it's how long that becomes. Of course, the shortest one is the lunation cycle, which is the sun and the moon, which is personally for us, right, as human beings on planet Earth, important. But there are larger cycles at work, and there's that big one I just talked about in February, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link below. I believe, yes, I believe it's on the seedsoftransformation.com, and it's on the events page. And so you can click on that and you can join the fun. It should be a lot of fun. You have to have a basic knowledge of astrology. You don't have to be an expert. You have to know the planets, you have to know the signs. The houses, not as important, but it's helpful. And then aspects, that's always the hardest part in astrology. But one of the things that the synodic cycle sort of brings home is the idea of how planets interact around the circle, and that's really what the aspects are about. So that's happening. And I'm also having a second Kabbalah class. This is for people who have taken my introduction course, but that's also going to be starting on the 10th of July. That's a Thursday, and it's a full moon. So there's just a couple of announcements, but I'll say it again. And have a blessed solstice. I love you guys. I feel honored to be able to share with you what I know. And you get to share your energy with me. It's been a crazy ride, guys. A crazy ride. I love you. Namaste. Okay, now I have to get out of here. Namaste. Take care of yourselves. Be careful out there.